What happens when AI literally outgrows its own servers, its own budget, and international law, all in the exact same week? Well, welcome back, everyone. Today, we're unpacking Aaron Rose's absolutely fascinating tech digest from June 17, 2026. Because look, the core thesis across the industry right now, it's impossible to ignore. The massive, unprecedented scale of agentic AI is suddenly hitting some severe physical, financial, and legal limits. Basically, the blank check era, yeah, it's over. And the reality check has officially arrived.
All right, let's dive right into this explainer. To really grasp what's happening at the bleeding edge of tech this week, we have to look at how the entire industry is slamming headfirst into what we're calling the three walls. We're going to break down these massive, industry-shaking shifts step by step, so you walk away with a crystal-clear understanding of this wild new AI landscape.
So here's the game plan for today. We'll start by hitting the financial wall. Then we'll move into the infrastructure wall, navigate our way through the regulatory wall, run through some quick hits, and finally wrap up with the ultimate bottleneck. Let's get right to it. Starting off with wall number 1, the financial wall. Specifically, OpenAI's leak and the $852 billion reality check.
So with OpenAI gearing up for this highly anticipated IPO, some leaked 2025 financial docs are actually giving us an early peek behind the curtain, weeks, maybe even months before the SEC officially forces them to show their hands. And honestly, the success story here is undeniable. The top-line growth is just incredible. They pulled in $13.07 billion in revenue in 2025. That's literally more than triple the $3.7 billion they posted back in 2024, completely blowing past their own internal target of $10 billion. I mean, by any normal software metric, this is just a historic triumph.
But hold on, because here comes the whiplash. $38.53 billion. That is OpenAI's net loss for 2025. Yeah, billion with a B. Now, to be completely fair here, $41.55 billion of that actually comes from a non-cash restructuring loss, tied to their whole conversion from a non-profit to a for-profit. But even when you strip all that out, the IPO roadshow is still going to have to explain away an astronomical $20.92 billion operating loss. Think about that. At an $852 billion private market valuation, OpenAI is trading at roughly 65 times its 2025 revenue, all while bleeding nearly $21 billion from operations.
So you're probably wondering, where on earth is all that money going? Well, it all points back to their primary landlord. In 2025, OpenAI handed Microsoft $17.2 billion, mostly paying for training compute and inference, while they only got about $303 million back. And because smarter, more capable models just gobble up more compute per query, OpenAI's gross margin actually shrank, dropping from 40% in 2024 down to 33% in 2025. But there is a massive lifeline here. Back in April 2026, these two renegotiated their deal. They capped future revenue share payments at $38 billion through 2030, which is way down from the originally projected $135 billion. That little restructuring right there, that could save OpenAI $97 billion over 5 years. And you better believe that is the exact math Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley are going to be leaning on hard for this IPO.
Okay, moving on to section 2, the infrastructure wall, or how AI agents literally broke GitHub.
Seriously, what happens when the physical architecture of a system just outright cannot handle the sheer demands of the software running on it? You get a full-blown structural crisis. See, GitHub's core platform is this massive, nearly 2 million line monolith built way back in 2008 on Ruby on Rails. It was designed for the human developer. Someone who works a few hours, actually enjoys sleeping, maybe takes the weekend off. It was absolutely not built for these relentless hyper-caffeinated AI coding agents like Copilot and Claude Code. These things operate continuously, in parallel, 24/7 across multiple repositories. Just to put that in perspective, in March 2026 alone, AI agents opened over 17 million pull requests. 17 million. And the result of all that? Just a massive, earth-shaking explosion in scale. In the entirety of 2025, GitHub processed about 1 billion commits. Fast forward to 2026, and they are on pace to hit 14 billion. 14 billion! This totally cratered their availability, dropping well below their enterprise service level agreements. And because this crazy agentic demand completely outran Microsoft's capacity planning, they've been forced to do the unthinkable. They are routing traffic through their biggest rival, Amazon Web Services, as a temporary stopgap while they scramble to target a full migration to Azure by 2027. And here's the crazy part. GitHub is not some isolated failure.
This AI demand curve is just blowing past the physical construction cycle across the entire tech ecosystem. I mean, Google and Anthropic, they're shelling out roughly $1 billion a month to SpaceX just for compute power. Trying to get your hands on AWS Trainium chips? Yeah, good luck. You're totally locked out until 2028. And get this, Goldman Sachs is now projecting an almost unfathomable $7.6 trillion in cumulative AI capital expenditures over the next 5 years. Let that sink in. The physical world literally can't build servers as fast as the software can fill them.
Which brings us to Section 3, the regulatory wall, the G7 clash in Evian. So now we're stepping out of the server room and right into geopolitical reality. Picture this. It's the 52nd G7 summit in France, and world leaders are gathering for a working lunch to hammer out some concrete, multilateral AI commitments. But the friction in how this played out is just incredible. Right before the summit, on Friday, June 12th, the U.S. Commerce Department drops a unilateral export control directive that yanks Anthropic's flagship models, Fable 5 and Mythos 5, completely offline. Just boom, gone. Then, literally days later, Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei and U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick are both sitting in the same room at that exact working lunch in France.
As the Digest so perfectly puts it, this whole situation became a real-time case study in what unilateral AI governance actually looks like. You've got G7 leaders sitting across the table from Amodei at a lunch explicitly designed for international cooperation. Meanwhile, the citizens of those very same nations are blocked from accessing his newest models because of a mandate from just one member state. Amodei and Lutnick were quite literally sharing space in Evian while the intense, Washington-level technical negotiations over these banned models dragged on without any public resolution. It's just a stunning regulatory standoff.
All right, moving on to Section 4. Quick hits, the rest of today's AI world. Okay, let's keep the energy up. We're going to do a rapid-fire lightning round of the remaining vital news from today's digest. First up, speaking of that Anthropic ban, Polymarket currently has the odds of a July 1st restoration sitting at 67%, and that is huge, especially considering Anthropic's looming June 20th refund deadline for its subscribers. But hey, despite all that drama, analysts are actually reporting that Anthropic is nearing operating profitability this quarter, which is wild. Meanwhile, over at xAI, their massive $60 billion acquisition of Cursor is still pending regulatory approval. Also, mark your calendars, because OpenAI is officially retiring GPT 4.5 next week on June 27th. And finally, get this. Chinese AI models now account for a staggering 61% of global Open Router developer API traffic. Talk about a massive shift.
And finally, Section 5, the ultimate bottleneck, what it all means for you. We have definitely covered a massive amount of ground today. But look, whether you're an investor eyeing that $852 billion valuation, a developer tapping your fingers waiting on an AI agent, or just an enthusiast watching this whole space evolve, the main takeaway is crystal clear. The era of limitless, unchecked AI expansion, it's over. The era of constraints has officially begun. This whole agentic AI boom is finally demanding real, hard answers. The financial math absolutely has to add up. The physical servers actually have to be built, and these complex international laws have to be navigated.
So, I want to leave you with this final thought to chew on. As these intelligent systems just keep scaling up, which of these three walls is going to be the absolute hardest to break? Ultimately, will the true bottleneck for the future of AI be the physical infrastructure, the financial cost, or international law? Really makes you think, doesn't it? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll catch you in the next one.